I finished Legend of the White Snake. I have this gorgeous copy from Rainbow Crate, but here's the original cover. I wanted to love this way more than I actually did, and I'm so disappointed. This is about Prince Yen, whose mother is like deeply sick because she got bit by a white snake, and the only thing that can heal her is this magical pearl. However, when he's on his way to deliver it to her, the pearl gets stolen by a white snake. 7 years later, the mother is still very ill, and the only thing that can save her is another white snake. The white snake? It's unclear. Anyways, so Xian is like off to find the white snake and encounters Jean, who is none other than the white snake. They have no idea who they are to each other because Jean has a human form that he took by like taking the power of the pearls. They fall in love without knowing who each other are, but then as Jean like realizes who Xian is to him and like what he's done to him in the past, i.e. stealing the pearl and like kind of leaving him for dead, he tries to escape, but like shenanigans happen, identities are revealed, and then weird shit goes on in the end of this. Let's start with the things I liked. First of all, I liked Shen and his relationship with his sister Qing. Even though they weren't like actual siblings, they're just kind of like snakes of a kind, and he saved her life and now they're kind of like entangled together, but they take care of each other. I really liked that. I thought that was cute, especially like the way they were introduced, kind of like in this really like rapid fire way. It was very entertaining, and I liked how they kept like putting their necks out for each other. That was so sweet. Very, very cute. And I also liked the relationship between Shen and Jen, even though it was like really insta-lusty and kind of like moved quickly. I'm gonna forgive it. It's a YA and it's like a fairy tale retelling. Folklore retelling? I don't know. Anyways, so like I'll forgive that it's being so quick because it was very, very sweet when they had like all these moments together. It was adorable. I also appreciated the attention to detail when it came to like the architecture and the way that Shen as a prince had to like maneuver through these different archways and like having to step one foot forward when you're going in and the other foot forward when you're going out, and all those little details. That was very interesting because I've read like a lot of Danmei, but they don't really go into depth in that, probably because it's like assumed knowledge, possibly, I don't fucking know. But in this, I was kind of like with the understanding that like the reader doesn't know anything about that, and so that was an entertaining little bit. Like it didn't happen a lot, but when it did happen, it was very like in depth. Like this is what you're seeing. It really did a good job at like painting the picture, which was delightful. On to things I didn't like. The pacing of this was absolutely fucking insane. We did not linger a single moment in anything that was happening. It was all just on to the next thing. Like they moved so quickly from like meeting to falling in love to having their first romantic conflict to having a second romantic conflict to like Shen being like identified as the white snake, to him getting captured, to him being escaped and then captured, then escaped again and then captured a second time, but worse this time, and then escaped and then captured and then dead. It was like so fucking insane. And because we moved so quickly from like event to event, we didn't really set up the next one that well. So every time the next thing happened, you were like, oh, so abrupt. Like now suddenly this is happening, even though it wasn't really like on the radar until it happened. And then you're like, oh, I mean, I guess it kind of, except for like a couple of key points where it was like mentioned, set up so far behind that like you didn't even remember it, and also like it didn't make sense that it was getting set up that way, except to like obviously so it could happen. I don't know, I didn't like the ending. I thought it was crazy. I thought I was losing my fucking mind because it felt so much like I was being summarized a longer story that someone else had read and then didn't remember all the details. So like every single time it was like, oh yeah, now this is happening. I was like, I'm sure something was supposed to be there to tie those two events together. However, you forgot them, I guess. I think in theory, this idea is like really cute and I think it works. In practice, it needed about like 150 more pages to develop everything that was going on, because like this is only like 336, and like that's not enough. That's not enough for me to believe the connection that these two have, because I'm sorry, but we met when we were kids and you were a snake and you stole from me and I've hated you for years, but now I'm in love with the human version of you. Like it's not doing it for me. There's a whole lot that's just like, oh, we have to be in love, so we're gonna be in love. And I just wasn't feeling it. And it wasn't just with their relationship, it was with all other aspects. We were just like told a lot of things to like speed things along, and I was like, okay, that's fine, I guess, if you have to. But we also wasted, and I'm gonna say wasted, a huge chunk of like the middle of this book on like this weird courtesan plot line that didn't really come to anything, because like, yeah, it was demonstrating how good of a person Jen is, but like, did we really need that long of like a way to show it? Like, I don't know. It was crazy, like, because it was shown in other ways. Like him like helping the snakes out as they were like going to hunting would have been fine, sufficient way to like show that, oh, he is a good person, he cares about people even when he doesn't have to. But like the Dong plot line, like specifically because it came to nothing. Like it wasn't like a MacGyver to be used later. It was just some random thing where it was like, oh, that would have been cool if it worked, and then it didn't. So I was like, so why fucking include it? There were also just like way too many antagonist forces in here. And I think that's what really like made the ending kind of fall apart, is because you've got like all of these negative forces kind of acting one after the other, and none of them feel like a big solid climax. They just kind of like roll into the other, and you don't really get any kind of satisfying ending, because you've got like the whole mom's dying of like being poisoned, and then there's this other antagonist who's doing something bad, and then there's like the Prince Wong situation, which kind of felt like thrown in there. And like, yeah, sure, that conflict exists in the realm of like it being a prince fantasy story, but like with the rest of the supernatural elements, it's like, did we really need that one as well? I didn't understand how that fit, and like it was so messy because it was just one after the other after the other, and you're like, hey, can I just get one of these to be like the big climax? And even like the one that felt like it should have been the big climax, like the antagonist person, it was over so quick. Like they literally, like, they showed up, he was like, ooh, pick, and then it was like both, whatever, and then it was like, oh, okay, and then it was done just like that. And I'm like, there are so many times you could have done something cooler, and the author just never chose the cooler option. It was always just the easy option to like end the story as fast as possible, and that was really disappointing to me, and I was like, I wasn't vibing with it. Overall, I gave this 3.5. It's a cute idea and I wanted to enjoy it, but it's just incredibly underdeveloped in like all aspects, in story, in character, and everything. And particularly annoying was that there were like 80 million different points at the end where it was like, this is the end of the book, but it would just keep going because you have to tie up the next plot line, and that's gonna have a little pretty bow ending as well, and not a single one of them was satisfactory. So by the end I was like, I don't care what happens, and also it makes everything that happened before this kind of nonsensical and just doesn't mean anything. God, I really wanted to like this and I really didn't, and I'm so sad. Ugh. In conclusion, read this book. Read this if you care more about vibes than plot. Read this if you want like a quick, easy read. Read this if you want an MM story that's like cute with some turmoil and it's gonna make you a little bit sad, but mostly it's like, oh, this is adorable. Read this book if you don't mind all of the shit I've complained about so far.